love you more. Oh, your mercy never fails me. All my days I've been held in your hand. From the moment that I wake up until I lay my head, I will sing of the goodness of God. All my life you have been faithful. All my life you have been so, so good. With every breath that I am able, I will sing of the goodness of God. I love your voice. You have led me through the fire. In darkest night, you are close like no other. I will sing of the goodness of God. All my life you have been faithful. All my life you have been so, so good. With every breath that I am able, I will sing of the goodness of God. I love your voice. You have led me through the fire. In darkest night, you are close like no other. I know you as a father. I know you as a friend. And I have lived in the goodness of God. Oh, this is my story. All my life you have been faithful. This is my song. All my life you have been so, so good. With every breath that I am able, I will sing of the goodness of God. 'Cause your goodness is running after, it's running after me. Your goodness is running after, it's running after me. With my life laid down, surrendered now, I give you everything. Your goodness is running, it keeps running after me. All my days, all my life you have been faithful. All my life you have been so, so good. With every breath that I am able, I will sing of the goodness of God. The Lord our God is ever faithful. He's never changing through the ages. From this darkness, you will lead us, and forever we will say, you're the Lord our God. The Lord our God, He's faithful and never changes. Through the ages, Rely on you for every moment. I know who goes before you. I know who stands behind. The God who fills your armies is always by my side. The one who reigns forever, he is a friend of mine. The God of angel armies is always by my side. You're by our side. You never left. We thank you, Jesus. We trust you, God. God, I look to you. I won't be overwhelmed. Give me vision to see things like you do. God, I look to you. You were my help comes from. Give me wisdom. You know just what to do. I love you more than my strength. I love you more than my sin. And I love you more than I want. Forever all my days, I will love you, God. We look to you, God. We trust you in any season. You're there with us. We trust you, God. Come on, let's sing this together. Sing hallelujah. 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 With everything inside of me, yeah, I raise a hallelujah, and I will watch the darkness flee. I raise a hallelujah in the middle of the mystery, yeah, I raise a hallelujah. I'm gonna sing in the middle of the storm, louder and louder. You're gonna hear my praises roar. I'm gonna be loud, heaven will arise. Death is defeated, the King is alive. I'm gonna sing. the middle of the storm. Louder and louder, you're gonna hear my praises roar from the ashes. Hope will rise, death is defeated, the King is alive. Even when I don't see your even when I don't feel it, your even when I don't see it, your working. Yes, God, you're always working. Come on. Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness, my God, that is who you are. Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness, my God, that is who you are. Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness, my God, that is who you are. 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 You're working, even when I don't feel it, you're working. You never stop working. You never stop. Let's sing it out. Even when I don't see it, you're working. Even when I don't feel it, you're working. You never stop working. You never stop working. Praise the Lord who set me free. Hallelujah. Death has lost its grip on me. You have broken every chain. There's salvation in your name. Jesus Christ, my living hope. Hallelujah. Praise the Lord who set me free. Jesus Christ, my living hope. Jesus Christ, my living
All right. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, Birmingham Bible Church. We are so elated. We are so excited that you have decided to join us here on today. So we want to welcome all of our Facebook users. Welcome to all of you who are watching via YouTube. If you're on Instagram or if you're on Twitter, we welcome you on today and just thank you for taking some time out of your schedule to join us. Listen, grab your lunch. If you're like me, grab your second cup of coffee because we need it because you've been up early. But it's 12 noon and this is our Winning Wednesday. And so a lot of you may ask, why do we call it Winning Wednesday? But we like to take some time out to bring you some topics to help you be a winner, to help you realize that you are a winner and to create some wins in your life. I believe the rapper said, all I do is win no matter what. Well, that's what we want you to do. We want you to win no matter what. We want you to have the victory. And so we like to take some time out to bring you information to help empower you, especially from people here in the community so you can support them. And that's what it's all about. We need to support one another. We want to encourage you on today. We want to help you walk in your victory on today. And so we have some great information that is about to be shared. Listen, especially if you're on Facebook, make sure you tag 3 people. Make sure you tag 3 people, do the little @ and then put somebody's name in it. Do that for 3 different people. We need you to text 5 people. Text 5 people. The last 5 people you text, the last 5 people you gossip to, the last 5 people. And then we need you to share it. Share it on your pages, share it via text, whatever it is. If you know somebody who is trying to buy a home, to own a home, to be a homeowner, listen, this is for them. So make sure you text this to them as well. And listen, if you have any questions, please make sure you put it in the comment section. Our scribes are out there. They're going to make sure that I get the questions. And so that way you can learn firsthand experience and we can learn together. So thank you so much. I see y'all are saying hello to me on social media. So hello to you guys. Thank you for joining us on today. And so today we have Miss Brandi Feagin. I'm gonna let her give herself a better introduction, but she has started her career in banking for over 10 years. She has 10 years experience. She has actually helped families avoid foreclosure. And then after that particular company shut down, she started doing property management. And so now she is in real estate and she is our marketing specialist for today. So I welcome you all, Miss Brandi Feagin. Hello, Brandi.
Hey, hello everyone. Hello, Miss Pam, and thank you so much for the introduction. Yes, I've kind of started out on the back end of real estate in my profession, and being, like you said, working in banking for over 10 years, helping families who are facing foreclosure, help them save their house by doing a forbearance or a modification rather. Moving on to property management as well as being a processor. And it was at that moment when I was working for Wells Fargo in the home mortgage department. They laid all of us off. And I wanted to do something that I could control. And that's when I started to do real estate. And I started real estate in November 15, and March of 2017, I talked to my husband, I prayed about it. I quit my job. I gave them a 30-day notice, quit my job, and I've been doing real estate full time since then. So God has been good to me during this time. Real estate had to work, and it has been working. So I've sold over 100 houses throughout my career. So I'm excited about what I do. And if you want me to, Ms. Pam, I can just go ahead and jump in and get started and talk about home ownership on this Winning Wednesday.
Yes, you can, but I want to interject and say, so you can give us the back end, you can give us both ends of the financial end and also the looking for home type end, because you have that experience that Wells Fargo, working with them.
Yeah. So, but as far as the front end and what I do now, I let the professionals do it, because as far as like loan officers, those type of people that can get the money to my clients, they know better, rates than I do. But yes, I know a little bit about that, but like I said, I let the professionals do it. Okay. That's the beauty of partnerships. I have different partners that I can send clients to get pre-approved here, get pre-approved there, based on their situation and what they need.
Good. Awesome. Awesome. But yes, ma'am, you can jump right on in.
All right, y'all. So what I want to talk about today, I want to hit just kind of 3 different points that I'm going to talk about when it comes to home ownership. One being just the home buying process in general. And it's just a snapshot today. There's a lot of more information. And if you do wish to have a sit down and talk about your particular your needs, because everybody's needs are different when it comes to real estate. Everybody's situation is different. I don't care, if your grandmother bought a house 20 years ago, it's not going to look the same as you're buying a house today. So we have to sit down and analyze your needs. And I'll provide all of my contact information at the end of this for you to reach out to me and sit down with me and have a free consultation, no obligation. But let's just talk about what homeownership looks like for you, right? So I'm going to talk about that in a snapshot today for everybody in a whole. Then we're going to move on to talking about this market, which is a seller's market. So if you've been watching what's going on in this real estate world, you know that the price of homes have increased, and that's because it's a seller's market, right? There's not a lot of, and what seller's market means is there's not a lot of sellers, so the inventory is very low, but there are a lot of buyers. So last year, when rates were really low, everybody decided, hey, I want to go buy a house. My personal opinion too, it also had something to do with COVID, people being in these apartments with their kids and just there all day and not having enough space, and just kind of like, hey, I need something bigger. Rates were low, so they took advantage of stuff like that. They're starting to creep back up now, but we are still in what we call a seller's market. So I want to talk about that. And then I'm going to talk about what we call, or what I call the thou shall nots of real estate, right? So, and some of it may just be, hey, I already knew that. But then sometimes what I found is that people don't know these things. So we want to prepare you to not do these things, especially if you're preparing to purchase a home in the near future. Okay. So the first step to home ownership is, of course, selecting a realtor, and there are a bunch of us out here. Right. And so you may have your family or your friends may have purchased a home from someone. So whoever your favorite realtor is, I would love to be some of y'all's realtors if you don't have any, by the way. But that is the first step of building that relationship with someone that you trust, right? And then that person can be able to sit down with you, talk to you about, analyze your needs, and put you in place with somebody, which is the next step, is putting you in place with someone that can get you approved, right? So I won't dig too much into what it looks like to getting approved, but I'll just kind of give you the basics. You want to be at least a 620 credit score or greater, right? Sometimes you may hear, oh, well, I can, get approved for 580. You can, right? But your rate is probably going to be high. You're going to have to put more down payment money, things like that. So you want to be at least 620. If you can get higher than that, that's good. But at 620 will get you qualified for a house. And outside of that, you do want to have a good bit of income, right? You want to have a job, obviously, to be able to afford the house, because not only are they the lenders looking at your credit, they're looking at your debt to income ratio, okay, to get you approved. So they're going to take your credit report, and based off that debt and your income, which you providing your W-2s, your pay stubs, tax returns, if you're 1099, they're going to take that, and then they're going to look at all these things and say, okay, based off your credit score, your debt to income ratio, or you may hear me say DTI, but that means debt to income ratio. They're going to take that, and then they'll tell you what kind of house you can afford. Okay. And Miss Pam, slow me down at any time if you have any questions, okay, that you may think.
Yeah, I just thought of one. What about for those who have that fluctuating income, like your business owners? Yeah. Who, some months is, it's really high, and some months is it's not so high. Is there someone who can work with those?
Yeah. So a lot of times, especially if you're a 1099 employee like myself, or a 1099 person like myself, we don't get a check every week, every 2 weeks, you're commission based and stuff like that. So what you have to have is 2 years of that self-employment income to buy a house. Okay. And that's what they're going to look at that. Now, a lot of times, and a lot of people do when they're self-employed is they probably make 100,000, but then they write off 80,000, right? Because they don't want to pay taxes on that. Don't do that if you're in the process or want to buy a house in the future, because now your income only looks as if you make 20,000 a year. Yeah. It's not going to get you the house that you want. It might get you a house, but you're going to be in an area that you don't want to be in, maybe. And the house is going to need some work and all that stuff. So don't write off those things if you don't have to, right? So keep that in mind. But if you do, there are lenders that I partner with that can do what we call a bank statement loan. So they see all the money coming in, and then you have to have 24 months, 2 years of those bank statements to qualify. Okay. That may also require a little bit more money down if you go that route and do the bank statement. But yes, if you are self-employed, you want to have 2 years of self-employment income. So if you're in the process of buying a house and you quit your job and say, hey, I want to be an entrepreneur now, that's going to set you back 2 years, because you do have to have that 2 years tax returns. Now, if you're a W-2 employee, you only need 30 days of proof of income. So your 30 days most recent pay stubs, of course, they're going to ask for your 2 most recent W-2s. Okay. So the 2 most recent tax years.
Okay. I'm sorry, Brandi. I had a question that came in that may be in line with this. I'm trying to flow with your outline. But if someone declared bankruptcy and they purchase a home,
they would have to wait depending on if it's Chapter 7, Chapter 13, they would have to wait 2 years from that discharge date. Now, if they're making payments they're in bankruptcy and they're through the courts and they're making payments on it, then they can go to the judge and say, hey, I'm getting ready, I want to buy a house. And the judge would have to say, okay, yes, you can move forward on purchasing a house. But typically it's 2 years after the discharge date.
Gotcha. All right. Yeah. Thank you.
2 years from the discharge date. So great question. So going back to the pre-approval, once you get that, and what a lot of people don't understand is that when you get that pre-approval, that does not mean now you can run out and go buy a car and buy whatever you want, right? That is just what it's sometimes you may hear pre-approval and pre-qualification interchangeably, but it's really just a pre-qualification. The pre-approval doesn't come until after it's gone through underwriting and they have approved you, but still, don't go out and buy anything until you get the keys. I tell people don't buy nothing until, maybe days later, right? So that everything is just clear and good. Because sometimes they do go back and look at and re-pull your score and things like that. So once you get that pre-approval, that lets us know as realtors, hey, we are, or that pre-qualification rather, that lets us know that we are ready to go and we can start looking at houses. Because what we don't want to do is go look at houses before this step, right? Because basically what we're doing is wasting time for one, and setting you up for failure as your realtor, because we don't even know what we're looking for. And you can go out and see this house and you fall in love with it and you don't even have a pre-approval. This house is $250,000 and you only get approved for $200,000. But somebody else who has a $250,000 pre-approval letter, they can make an offer on that house and potentially get it. So we want to work smart, especially, you're going to hear me say a lot, seller in this market, in this seller's market, we want to work smart in any way. But in this market, we want to make sure that we're prepared when we go out and start looking at these houses. Okay. So select a real estate agent. The agent should be able to point you in the direction of getting you pre-approved. And then once you're pre-approved, basically what we would do is analyze your needs. And that's just quick and simple saying, hey, I want to be in this area. I want 3 bedrooms. I want 2 bathrooms. I want garage, hardwood, simple as that. Now we know what we're looking for. So now your agent can start sending you properties. And then eventually y'all will start going out viewing properties. And then you're going to walk into one as the buyer and you're going to, hey, this is the house that I want. Like, I love it. Let's make an offer on it, right? You're going to have that moment. You're also going to have those moments where you walk in, you're like, I like it, but it is not speaking to me. what I always tell my clients is, hey, listen, you'll know when it's the one, right? Because it's gonna talk to you, it's gonna speak to you. We're gonna pray over it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's the thing. And then once you say, hey, this is the one that I want to make an offer on, that's what we do. We make an offer. And an offer is simply just an offer, right? And so just to say, I want to say this, because in any other market, you can make an offer and the seller would probably counter it if they didn't like what you offered or just accept it, right? But in this market, seller's market, there's no second chances, right? So we always have to give our highest and our best offer, because what these sellers are witnessing is that people are going tens of $1,000s over their asking price, and they're getting 10 to 30, 40 offers on one house. So they don't have to come back to you and say, hey, can you go up or can you do this? They have 30 others to choose from. And what they're going to do is choose the one that's going to best suit them, right? So in this market, or whether it's any other market, always be prepared to give your highest and your best offer. For the sake of winning Wednesday, though, we're in a perfect world in here, okay? So when we present an offer on today in Winning Wednesday, our offer is getting accepted. And what we did, and we just, we presented our offer and it was our highest and our best, and we gave it, right? And thank the Lord that the seller accepted it. So now what that means is that we're under contract. Okay, so we presented our offer, seller accepted. Now this is what we call time is of the essence. And I don't want to get into the contract jargon, but there's 12-page contract of all of these things that we have to stay within the terms of that contract. One thing that a couple of things that I do want to mention that's very important that's within that contract, Ms. Pam, is that buyers will need to be prepared to give earnest money. And what earnest money is essentially is just a good faith estimate, right? And how I like to explain it to where buyers can understand is that when you're in an apartment and you're leasing an apartment, you put a deposit down. And if you stay within the terms of that lease, if your kids don't mess up the walls or you keep it clean when you leave, ultimately you get that deposit back. That's the same as earnest money. The difference is, though, you don't get it back in your hand. It goes back as a credit toward your loan. So buyers, be prepared to have earnest money. And I'm going to just give you some ranges of what that looks like. Anywhere between $500 to $1,000 typically is what you see based on the price of the house. It can be a little higher. I have some clients now that's given $2,500, $3,000, just to be a little bit more competitive, because what that says is that you're putting some skin in the game. So I'm serious about buying your house, Mr. Seller. Here's a $3,000 earnest money deposit that shows that I'm serious about that. But you don't have to pay that much. Typically, it's about $500 to $1,000, okay? Then after that, what we have to do is get a home inspection. The home inspection is not required by your lender or by the state of Alabama, but it is going to be required by me as your realtor or your realtor, because this tells you the story of a house. You want to know what you're buying, right? So the home inspector goes in and he's going to inspect that house from top to bottom. The beauty of the home inspection is the sale, in some cases, well, the sale of the house is contingent based on the home inspection. So if those repairs come back and they're just outrageous and it's too much for you to do and the seller's not willing to make those, you have the right to walk away from buying this house and get your earnest money back. Okay. So that step to me is very important. I don't care if it's a new build or anything. You want to get that house. If it's an as-is house and we know that the seller's not making any repairs, we're still going to get this for the purposes of our information, because if it's too much going in, we can just walk away. Okay. That will run you anywhere between $325 to $400. Okay. And you pay that to the inspector. Now, if the deal falls apart, you don't get that back because you paid that to the inspector for doing the job. Okay. After we get in Alabama, and let me say this, Alabama is a buyer beware state. And what that means is that whatever we want to find out about the house, it's our due diligence to do so. And so that's why it's very important to get that home inspection, because it's going to tell, or any other inspection that's going to tell you, because the seller doesn't have to let you know what's going on with the house, unless it's a latent defect that's like health and safety. But a lot of times some of this stuff is not provided up front. So you want to do your part. We want to do our part in getting that home inspection. Okay. The next step to that is the lender is going to send an appraiser out to give us the true value of the house. So for instance, we're under contract for $250,000. We want to make sure that house is worth $250,000 because you're not going to buy a house that's not worth, right? So what the appraiser does, he goes out and he says, okay, hey, this house is either 1A worth 250,000 and we're good. He can also say, hey, this house is worth 260,000 and you're great, right? Because now you're going to move in with $10,000 worth of equity. But the appraiser can also say, hey, this house is only worth 240,000. So now we got a $10,000 difference. The beauty of real estate is we can go back to the seller and say, hey, Mr. Seller, your house is not worth 250, it's worth 240 according to the appraiser, right? And that's what we have to go by, what the appraiser says. And Mr. Seller can say, hey, well, I'll take 240 for it, I'll lower it to 240. And then that's what you would pay for the house. Or Mr. Seller can say, hey, well, I want 250 for it. But at that point, what we could do is, because the appraisal is another one of those contingencies like the home inspection, we can walk away and say, hey, no, I'm not paying more for a house than what it's worth, Mr. Seller. You can put it back on the market and then I'll get my earnest money back and then we'll start over. Does that make sense?
It does. Yes.
Okay. So don't be afraid, even if you have to go over asking price, don't be afraid, because the appraisal is the protection for you. You're only going to pay what the house is worth. Now, again, in this seller's market, some people are paying more because they're in a situation to where it's so, some buyers are desperate right now, right? They've sold their homes. Now they got to go find something. It's so many, other buyers that you have to be competitive. So some people who have the cash and have the access, the means to do that, can say, hey, I'll pay $5,000 more than what it's worth. But that $5,000 comes directly out of your pocket. The lender is only going to give you, in this case, if it only appraised for 240, the lender is only giving you 240 to finance. The remaining comes out of your pocket. Okay. Any questions so far, Ms. Pam, you think you got?
No, this is good. No.
Okay.
Good.
Well, good. So, but again, we're winning Wednesday. So we're in a perfect world here. So our offer comes back and we have $10,000 worth of equity in our home, right? So we were under contract with 250. It came back at 260. Your price still remains 250, but you just have $10,000 worth of equity. And I'll explain what equity is that now you own a house and you pay less for it than what it's worth, right? So now your house, you got $10,000 in it. So if you were to go to sell it, you could probably profit. It's worth 260, so you can get that at least 10,000 of it back. But as the market continues to trend up, and that's what we're seeing, in a year, 2 years, your house is going to be way worth what you paid for it, right? And in some cases with that equity, let's just say you wanted to do something different to the house. It needed some carpet or needed some paint. You can pull that out and do that work to that house if you needed to, or you can just let it continue to build as you make your mortgage payment, and then as the market continues to trend, and that gives you more value in the house when you go to sell it. So that's what equity is. And let me add, you can't do that by renting. You can't get equity by renting. Okay, so homeownership has a bunch of different values to it, tax write-offs, the equity that you can get, things of that nature, right? And it's yours. As long as you pay the mortgage every month, it's yours. And so with renting, of course, and I'm not knocking renting. Some people have to do that. But if you just think about, hey, especially with the prices of rent right now, I sold a house not too long ago and we sold it for $12,000 over the asking price. 2 days later, the apartment company that bought it, or the rental company that bought it, put it back out there for $1,600 2 days later, a month, right? So they're making a killing off rent. You could get, your mortgage could be less than $1,600 a month, right? But I digress. That's just, I'm a realtor, so so after appraiser goes out and it comes back as it is, it starts to slow down for you as the buyer on that side of issuing the money out. So upfront money that you need is that earnest money, home inspection money, and your appraisal money. So I tell buyers right now, have at least $1,500 to $2,000 right now ready if you were to find a house today that you could be able um to pay those things. Now it's in stages. Earnest money is first. Home inspection is next. If we don't get past home inspection, then you don't have to worry about appraisal. You've just lost out on that inspection money and we're starting over, okay? But don't look at it as a loss. Look at it as, hey, that was the best $350 that I could have spent my money on, because had I moved forward into this house, then it would have just been, me dumping money in it. So you want to make sure you definitely do that. After that, what happens? Then there's just a bunch of back end things going on, right? Your lender is working with you to make sure you got all your updated information, your files going through underwriting, the closing attorneys and the title company, they're working together to make sure that when the title or the deed is conveyed over to you as the new buyer, it's clear and there aren't any liens or judgments or anything like that that's attached to that house, because we want those things to be satisfied prior to you moving in and signing that, so that doesn't attach to you. Okay, so a lot of these things are going on in the back end to protect you. Okay, and that's what's going on the back end. And then after that, what happens is that we send the inspector back out, because we want to make sure if the seller did fix some things, that in fact they did do them correctly, right? Because as the agent, if they had to do something to the roof or to some electrical stuff, I'm not a roofer, I'm not an electrical, and I don't electrician, I don't know. So we want to make sure that you're taken care of and that they've done those things. So we send the inspector back out, and they may charge about $75 or $100 just to go back out. Some of them do it as a courtesy. But we want to make sure that that's done so that that those things are complete when you do take ownership in the house. Inspector goes back out. Your realtor, myself, what we'll do is go and we'll do a final walkthrough of the house, just making sure that it looks the way that it looked as when we viewed it, right? And that they kept the refrigerator is still there, all the appliances, the blinds, these things that we've asked to remain into the property. We want to make sure that those things are there. If it was occupied with a homeowner prior to you taking possession, we want to make sure when they move their stuff out, they didn't knock any holes in the walls and break any windows or things of that nature. So we'll do a final walkthrough. I always like to take a cute little picture, just for memories of you getting ready to close on your first house or second house or whatever. And then we go to the closing table. And at that point, you can expect to be there maybe 30 minutes to an hour, sometimes a little longer, just depending. But that's just where you're signing all the documents, taking ownership of your new house, right? And then now you can breathe. Now you can do whatever you want to do. You got the keys, you signed the paper, deed is conveyed over, and it's just a glorious time for everybody, right? Because although I know that I made this seem easy, it's still a process. So and especially right now in this seller's market, and that's what I'm about to get into now, it's extremely tough for buyers, extremely tough. So at that closing table, when we do get there, and we will get there, that's when we rejoice and be glad in everything that we did to get here. So jumping into the seller's market and what that is and what that looks like. So I told you a little bit about what it was, but sellers right now aren't paying anything. They're not paying closing costs. They're not giving you a home warranty. They're not giving termite bonds. I mean, you can, depending on how long the house has been sitting on the market. But when we're talking about day one, day two homes that have just hit the market, it's just so competitive, especially if it's a good house in a good area, right? Because there's so many buyers. I mean, there are a ton of buyers. And so you have to be prepared. So as a buyer, what I would tell you is that continue to save, because you're going to probably need some money. As the realtor, I am prepared to help you find lenders and loan officers that does have grant money. Some people like say, hey, can you get me set up on that first time home buyer thing? And it's really no such thing, right? These lenders and loan, they'll give this money to anybody, whether you bought a house 1 time, 2 times, 3 times, they don't care as long as you qualify for it, right? So we want to make sure that we can find some grant money. And what grant money is that's money that's free money, right? That you don't have to pay back. And that's out there as long as it lasts. But then there are some programs to where you can get down payment assistance. And that'll be just catered to your need, right? But if you don't have money saved right now, because the pre-approval is just the piece of paper that's saying that you can go out and get the house, but it's not everything else that goes along with being able to buy the house. So with seller's market, you'll see, I mean, the house will go on the market, let's say on today, and then 3 days later it's under contract, right? So you don't have time to say, okay, well, I'll go Saturday to look at it when I'm off work, because by Saturday, I can guarantee you it's gone, because they already got 30 offers. They don't have to wait on you to get there on Saturday. They have 30 offers to choose from. Just give me the one that's going to net me the most amount of money in some cases. And the reason why it's so much harder for buyers in this market is because so many homeowners have taken advantage of selling their house, right? And now they've sold the house, they've took advantage of the market, which means that they've gotten their equity out and much more than what they probably put in because of the market. And now they have cash and they're just waiting on the right property to show up. So now that they can go and put an offer on this house, see now, and you have financing, right? But they have cash. Which one you think is going to win? Cash. There's no risk in cash, right? There's no underwriters. It can close a lot quicker. 10 days. It can close in 10 days. There's no appraisers to say, hey, this value isn't what it is when it comes to cash. So, but sometimes cash doesn't outweigh it, because sometimes people think just because they have cash, they can lowball. So you get with a realtor, because we're having to be creative with these things, right? So in this market, you may have to go 10,000 over. You may have to go 20,000 over. You may have to pay a little bit more. You're probably going to have to pay your own closing costs, get your own home warranty, get your own termite. I've had some clients that even had to pay the seller's closing costs, right? But you have to have money in order to do that. So I'm saying be prepared, save as much as you can. And here's my position in it. Anybody can buy a house, right? It's never a no. It just may not be right now. And even if it's not right now, then that's okay too, right? Because what you don't want to do is get out here just because you got a piece of paper that says, hey, I can buy a $200,000 house, but then you don't have any money. I just told you what you're going to have up front and some things that you're going to have to do. So you got to be prepared. So be prepared. If it's next year, that's fine. The market may have shifted by then anyway, and you wouldn't have to worry with all this that's going on. But don't put yourself in a bind if you don't have the means to do that, or you don't qualify for some of these down payment assistance programs. Okay.
You know what, Brandi, you are so correct about the market, because we live near Oak Mountain.
Okay.
And,
oh God.
we cut through this subdivision, and there was a house for sale. It was in a cul-de-sac. I'm a sucker for cul-de-sac. But I was driving through, not interested in it. And I kid you not, like you just said, 2 days later, there was already a contract on the house. I was like, what? It was just on, but yeah, and I didn't know why, but now I know, yeah.
And as realtors, we know that, right? So I'm getting ready to list a house in Clear. It's already out there as a coming soon. I already have 8 showings on it, and we don't even go live on that property until the end of this month. And the showings are going to keep coming in, right? So that house, once we go live, I'm probably already going to have a bunch of contracts to where that house is really just going to be on the market 1 to 2 days. Right. So it's not leaving a lot of time. Now, I'll be fair to allow people time to see, but most of the times what you're going to see is, hey, all offered highest and best offers are due by such and such day at such and such time. Seller will make a decision the next day. And typically that's 2 to 3 days after the house has hit the market. So there's not a lot of time for buyers to be able to, but those people that are going to see it, they're already prepared, right? So we want to make sure that you're prepared. I tell a lot of my clients or people who when you get ready to go on vacation, what do? You don't just jump up and say, hey, I'm going to fly to Miami tomorrow and not even know where you're going to stay, not even know how you're going to, get there. So you plan your vacations, right? That's the same thing with the house. Plan. Hey, I want to buy a house next year. Let me start working on my credit now. Let me start saving now. Let me put these things and get these people and things in place now. So that way, when next year comes, I'm prepared. Don't wait until your lease is almost up. You got 30 days for your lease, because it's not going to happen. You're going to be going month to month, and you're going to frustrate yourself in doing that, right? So prepare yourself for this market as a seller's market. Prepare yourself as even just becoming a homeowner in general. Okay. So that's it about a seller's market. The last thing that I want to really talk about is the 10 commandments of buying real estate. The thou shall nots is what I call them. So I'm going to jump into that real quick, Miss Pam, and I'll just read it directly off of my book here. But the first thing is, thou shall not change jobs or become self-employed or quit your job. You know why. You need a job to buy a house. I just told you that if you become self-employed, you got 2 years before you can buy a house. So don't do that until after you buy the house, okay? The second thing is, thou shall not buy a car, truck, or van. And the reason being is, now let me preface it with this. Life is still happening for a lot of people that are buying homes, right? And so if you need to go buy a car to get to the job to buy the house, get the car. The house will be there, right? But what I'm saying with this is, if you're approved, most people think, okay, I'm approved now, let me just go buy this car I want to, because people here get the house, then the car. And that's true. You don't want to, because buying a car and buying a house they look completely different, right? When you're buying a car, they're going to run your credit to whoever will finance you. And then those inquiries will hurt your score. And then those things take for 2 years to get off. So now you lowered your score. The car people may say, oh, you got a 700, but by the time they run your information to 5 different people, it's dropped. And it's easy to drop. It's hard to get back up, right? So just don't buy a car until after you bought the house. Okay. The third thing is, thou shalt not use charge cards excessively or let your accounts fall behind. We know that that's common sense. You're buying a house. You need credit to buy a house. Don't use your credit if you don't have to. Pay it down, but don't go out and max it out. You want to keep your utilization rates at 30% or less. Okay. That way, you know you're safe. If you have to use a credit card, use it to get some gas, pay that sucker right off. You know what I mean? Don't just go out using it for anything, just go shopping, because the lenders are going to see this. Behind the scenes, they see all this stuff that's still going on with your credit. Okay. The fourth thing is, thou shalt not spend money you have set aside for clothing. So I just hammered you with save. Even if you don't use it, then you still have it, right? So save as much as you can, but don't spend any money that you have set aside and say, hey, well, I'll put it back when I get my paycheck. Don't do it. You want to just make sure that even if you have to get an account just for the purposes of the house, do that. So that way you're not commingling your house money with everything else. And now you know, hey, this money that I have in this account is for me getting this house. And then your loan officer can use that account for the purposes of you purchasing a house, okay? But don't spend money that you have set aside. Thou shalt not omit debts or liabilities from your loan application. So when you apply for a mortgage, the lender is going to give you a loan application to complete. Don't lie on it. Don't try to omit anything. They're going to find out, right? So it's better to be upfront in the beginning instead of us get you under contract and then we get down the line and then for whatever reason, now something has come up that you knew about that you did not disclose to us, and then now you can't buy the house. Okay. So then that not only starts affecting you, that affects the person who was thinking that you were buying their house, and then maybe they were buying a house from somebody else, and it's just a domino effect, right? So just be upfront and honest. There's never a problem. We're always going to focus on the solution. And then because if what you may think is a problem is probably not even serious compared to what we could do to fix it, right? So it's better to just be upfront about it. Thou shalt not buy furniture is the next thing. So everybody's buying a house and you want to go deck it out and make it nice, right? Yes, no. Go look at the stuff at IKEA all you want. Just don't buy anything right now, because what's going to happen? That's going to ding on your credit. So now you bought this furniture, now your credit score is dropped, and it can affect your debt to income ratio, and it knocks you out, and now you cannot apply. You cannot buy the house that you dreamed of. The next thing is, thou shalt not make large deposits without checking with your loan officer first. This one always gets everybody, so I want to really explain this. So any money that's in your account has to be sourced, or it has to be seasoned. So if it's source meaning that your W-2 income, your check is deposited into your account. The loan officer can source that. We know that that comes from your job, your tax returns, your child support, whatever it is that's being deposited. That's court ordered child support, by the way, that's being deposited. They can source that, right? But if you have $5,000 under your mattress or in a shoebox, and then you go put that into your account, they're looking at you like, where did this come from?
Like, are you laundering money? Right.
Yeah, is that money laundering? So you're dealing with the government, so they want to make sure that the money that you have is legit money. So you put that $5,000 in there. Now that money has to sit there in your account and season for 90 days. So now you're delayed 90 days from purchasing a house. So if you do have large deposits like that, now you're preparing to buy a house, go ahead and put it in your account. So that way, when you're ready to buy a house, it's there and it's seasoned. There's no question. They won't question where that came from because it's been in there over 90 days. Okay. But if you're just going to put $500 here, $500 there, then that's fine. They may kind of ask where that's coming from, but just large deposits. I think the rule is you don't want to deposit no more than 5% of your income before they don't start questioning, because these underwriters, their job, they're not your friend. I'm your friend. The loan officer is your friend, but the underwriter is not your friend. They are there to protect the bank and make sure that the bank is making reasonable choices, like loaning money to reasonable people that are responsible people that they know that they'll pay it back, obviously. So they're digging and they want to know everything. So we got to make sure we're on the up and up with everything. Okay.
And so Brandi, like, for example, if someone has, a life insurance policy that accrues cash value, if they decide, hey, I'm going to take this money for a down payment on my home, as long as they see that particular check, because how
that's
you
right.
get the image on your on your bank account.
That's right. So as long as and then you more than likely you're going to have some documentation that you took that out, or or they can, as long as they can see where it comes from, they're good. So if you're going to use some 401, you got 401k and you want to use that, then I would recommend getting a withdrawal and not a loan from that. And then you'll just say, hey, well, I pulled from my 401k. The other thing is, if let's say your parents or your grandparents, they're so excited for you and they want to give you money to help you buy a house, they can do so. But what we don't want them to do is just give you the money and then you go deposit it, because then it has to be seasoned, right? Or sourced. Well, they can't source it because it's cash. What we want them to do is provide the lender. So let us know, say, hey, my grandmother wants to give me $5,000 to help with my down payment. And what we do is, your grandmother, we consider that as a gift. So the lender, your grandmother would complete a gift fund form letter, and then she would need to provide her bank statements showing that she has this $5,000 to give to you. And that's how you get around that.
Okay, yeah, someone did ask that if someone gifted them some money by writing a check. So you just explained that. So they have to go to the bank. Wow.
Yeah, so they will get that money, they will get that cash to put it in their account, and it'll be a gift letter. But again, you're dealing with the government, so they want to know, hey, where did grandmother get that money from? And they're not digging through her account, seeing what she's spending her money on. They just want to see that she has $5,000 to give to you.
Are they trying to make sure grandma not a drug dealer? I mean, what?
That's exactly what they're trying to make sure. That's exactly what they want to do. Oh yes, so you can do that. Thou shalt not, number 8 is, don't originate any new inquiries onto your credit, right? So don't go out and get any new credit cards. Don't go out and do anything. All of that affects your credit score and your debt to income ratio. So don't do that. And then it's an inquiry that's going to be on your credit, which really hurts your scores. So you don't want to do that. And those aren't removed until about 2 years, unless you get with the credit repair person that can get those removed. Thou shalt not, now this to me is just life, period. It has nothing to do with real estate. Thou shalt not co-sign a loan for anyone.
That's right. That's
Right.
the Proverbs. You're right.
Don't do that, because that debt now is your debt.
That's
right. And so let's say you co-sign with your daughter for a car, and that's fine, but make sure she is paying that car note and it's coming out of her account, and you can show 12 months where she has made that payment. Otherwise, that's your debt. Okay. So if you have to co-sign, just make sure that you do it that way. It comes out of their account solely, they're paying it, and then that debt could be washed away from you. Okay. But you will have to show at least 12 months of that. Okay. And then the last thing is thou shalt not change bank accounts. The reason for that is because they're going to ask for your 3 months bank statements to show that you do have funds or cash to close. And so you don't want to be changing in the middle of the process. If you're going to use a savings account, that's fine. But I would say stick to one account. So for instance, if you have a checking account and that's the account that you're going to use for the purposes of buying the house, just get everything out of that one account. Don't go and pull $1,000 earnest money out of your savings account, because now they're going to want to know, they're going to want that savings account information, because in order to get the credit back for the $1,000 earnest money, you got to show where you took it out. So it's better to just use one account if you can for the purposes of buying your house. Okay. And so those are the 10 commandments of real estate. You know, those are the things that you don't want to do while you're purchasing a house, or you want to make sure that you're well aware of when you're going through this. So there's a lot of information that we just shared, and I don't expect you to remember any of this, but what I do hope is that you got a gist of what it looks like to buy a house and what the market looks like now. If you are open to sitting down with me and we just analyze your needs, then you definitely can reach out to me. Is it okay, Ms. Pam, if I give out my information?
Yeah, that's fine. You can. I had a couple of questions, but go ahead and give it out now. If that's
no, I'll answer your questions first.
Okay, so there's a couple of things. Well, first of all, I want to add a number 11 if I can.
Okay, I'm gonna write it down.
I was often told that, you know, when you do get a home, that your mortgage should only be a certain percentage of your income. I thought it was 28%, because even though you're approved for, let's say, a $250,000 house, you know, if your income says, you know, I can only afford a, you know, $1,000 mortgage, you know, then I should go with the $1,000 mortgage, maybe a lesser value of a home. Is that pretty much correct in your field, or what do you think? That was a financial consultant that we talked to one time.
Yeah. So you want to stay with where you're comfortable, because remember that they're only looking at your credit report. They're not looking at water bill, power bill, all these other things that you have to do. They're just looking at the debt that's on your credit report, right? So yes, on paper, it may look like you can afford a $350,000 house, but that doesn't mean that you have to buy one, right? So the pre-approval letter is up to amount, right? So 350 is your max, but if you say, hey, I only want to make a payment that's, you know, $1,200 a month, then you know you don't need to buy a $350,000 house. You need to be back down to this $215,000 house, right?
Yeah.
But if you go up 1,000 in, and you're only looking at about a $6 or $7 difference in your mortgage. So it's not drastic if you go up. So every 1,000 up is only about a $6 or $7 difference. So if you see something that's $215 and you're like, okay, well, I can do $1,250, then you see something that's $220, then it's not going to hurt you as much to go up to that. But yes, I always tell people, stay within where you're comfortable. And even before you do the application, the lender's gonna ask, like, hey, where do you want to be at in payment? Now you got to be real about it, right? Like, there's no mortgage out here that's $500. It just ain't happening, right? So you got to be within reason of where you want to be. But yes, stay within where you're comfortable. So if you're approved, if he says, hey, you can buy a house up to $350, but you know, I don't want to pay that much on a house. I really don't want to be house poor, right?
Right.
So stay within where you're comfortable at. Now, if you're approved for 350, and y'all may know this, but if you're approved for 350 and you buy a $250,000 house, then you don't get that extra $100,000. Like that's just it's an up to amount. It's an up to amount of what you qualify for. But yes, that is a good point, Ms. Pam. Stay within where you're. I don't know the percentages, that may be right, but I just tell people stay with where you're comfortable, because you got to pay this.
Exactly. Yeah. And you have to live after that. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And so, yes, a couple of questions. So one person wanted to know, would it be wise to save the money with the financial institution that you're trying to get the mortgage loan from? So if I'm trying to get a loan from Wells Fargo, should I save my money at Wells Fargo?
Not necessarily. No. A lot of people that I run into, they don't want to get they don't want, like, if they bank there, that's not who they want to use anyway. But it doesn't necessarily matter where you have your account set up, because you're going to provide those bank statements anyway. Yeah. Now, if you work there and they had some perks for workers, then that may be different. But no, you don't necessarily have to open up an account with who you're going through with pre-approval.
Okay. And I know we touched on this when you were talking about the foreclosure, the bankruptcy. So if someone has everything in order, like credit score, earnest money, and we talked about that 2-year waiting period from the discharge date, but you also mentioned that the judge could possibly do something. So they wanted to know, do they still have to wait 2 years? Or I guess if they didn't want to wait the 2 years, can the judge super rule it? Or that makes sense.
So the chapter 7, I believe, and I'll get this to you, Miss Pam. If I'm wrong, I can pull it up. But I believe the chapter 7 is the one that's the 2 years from the discharge date, has nothing to do with the judge. But gotcha. The chapter 13, I believe, is the one where people will make, where they're paying on it, right? So it's put into the bankruptcy, but they're making payments on whatever. That one, that's the one where you can go to the judge and say, hey, I want to buy a house. I've been doing good with my payments and this. Can you sign off on me I've been approved. And a lot of times they want you to get the house under contract first and then take it to the judge and say, hey, here's the details with it, so that they can see that it's not going to affect you financially with everything else that you have going on.
Yeah. And let me ask you, do you know anything about, for example, for someone who is renting in an apartment, can they use that as, I make my payments on time?
Yeah.
I forgot, is it called credit my rent?
Well, no. So what the lender's going to do is a verification of rental. So they're going to, or VOR, they're going to reach out to your rental company to verify your rent and make sure that you've been good with that. So they're going to check that. They're going to also do what we call the VOE, or verification of employment, right? So they're going to take your pay stubs, but they're also going to reach out to your employer to verify this income as well. So they're going to do a VOR and a VOE, or verification of rental, and a verification of employment, to check those things. So yes, if you're in good standing with your rent and they do report that to the credit bureau, then that will definitely show up. Good. To help you if you've been doing good with it.
Yeah. Brandi, this was so good. I learned a lot. The viewers, they learned a lot. They were asking questions, really being engaging. So thank you, viewers, for that. This was really good information.
Thank you.
Really
good. Yes. Good. And it's a snapshot. So there's a lot more to it, right? But it's individually based with those things. And so this is just the gist of it all. I welcome anybody to sit down with me, whether it's in person, via Zoom, over a phone call. If you just do have some specific questions catered to what your needs are, I do welcome anyone to reach out to me for that.
Yeah, no, this is awesome. And we're going to rebroadcast it again this evening, because some people at work right now, but we usually broadcast. So I'm sure we're going to do it this evening, like around 8, when everybody gets home and gets settled.
Okay.
Good information. It was really good. And somebody said, delay is not denial. And
delay, yes.
It's not. You don't, you at least have the tools, get all the information that you need, so that next year, hey, I'll be in a better position to actually buy. Our thing was, when we were trying to buy a home, I always want to buy it during the summer because say that's a good time. Kids out of school, we can do all this moving
Yeah.
and shit. But now it's just whenever. It's just
It's,
the seller's market is.
listen, it's whenever, wherever all these houses are selling. And that's right. Delay is not a denial. And like I told you before, anybody can buy a house. I think a lot of times we're just fearful of having that credit ran, because in our communities, we don't see that a lot, right? And so I often meet with people and they're like, girl, my credit is not good. I'm not going to be able to buy a house. And then 3 months later, all they got to do is 3 months worth of work to get their score to where it needs to be, and then they can be in a house, right? So anybody can do it. It's just, are you willing to do what it takes to get there? Are you willing to get yourself connected with the right people to help you get there? So I don't want anybody to think that they can never buy a house, because you definitely can.
Yeah, and you may have to delay yourself some gratification of shopping, and deny yourself a couple of things, but you're saving for the bigger pictures for your home.
That's true. That's true. And you may even get into it and then see that it's not the time. I've had clients where I say, hey, it's time for you to slow down. You might just take a step back. Let's just wait. You know what I mean? It's just right now, this time is not for you. I met a girl the other day on wanting to sell her house, but hey, she said, I only want to buy a house that's $200,000 in the neighborhood that she wanted to be in. I said, well, you might want to stay in your house for now, because that's just not humanly possible to find right now, right? So instead of you being homeless, stay here, and then we'll work on that later, right? So it's not always about, like I said, it's easy to get the pre-approval letter, but sometimes it's a little hard to get out there to try to find it. So you got to make sure timing is everything with this, especially if, you don't have funds right now to do that.
Exactly. My husband, he used to preach all the time. He said the first house we got was Ishmael, and the second one was Isaac, because we shouldn't have got that first house we were in. It was wrong time, and it was the child out of season. It wasn't what God had for us.
Right.
And so viewers, make sure you do it in God's time. And Brandi, it's so much information, and you're connected with a lot of great people who can help with any situation, seems like. So please, somebody's asking, please give us information. So can you please tell people how they can see you? And also, when y'all do see her, just say, hey, I saw you, on Birmingham Bible Church's Winter Wednesday, so she can make the connection. But please give us your phone number, whatever, email address.
Yeah. So phone number is area code 205-739-3574. So 205-739-3574. Call me, text me. Listen, I do have a 2-year-old and a husband. So if I don't answer, just shoot me a text. That's probably quicker to get me. And then, I'll definitely reach back out to you. If you don't catch me with a phone call, you can always text me. You can find me on Facebook. My personal page is Brandi Feagin, just my first and my last name. My business page may have Brandi Feagin EXP Realty or something like that on it. But my personal page is fine if you just want to start there. I'll share a lot of things from my business page to my personal anyway. You can find me on Instagram at Brandi _ the relationship realtor. Brandi at Brandi _ the relationship realtor. One thing I do try to pride myself on, Miss Pam, is how I got that is I like to build relationships with people. It's more than just selling a house for me. All my clients become my friends and my family. So I'm real big on relationships. And email is soldbybrandifeagin@gmail.com. So that's sold, SOLD, by BY, Brandi Feagin, my first last name, @gmail.com. I don't have Twitter and all that stuff, y'all, but you can definitely find me on those.
That's fine. And please tell, and Brandi is with an I, right? Not a Y?
Yes, Brandi, and Feagin is Feagin.
Okay, I want to make that clarification for the viewers. So yeah, okay, awesome. And this is great, Brandi. What I'm going to do, because we are coming to a close, this is good.
Yes.
We're going to have you back again.
Yes, please.
I love your spirit, your personality. If we ever need you, we have 4
I'm
children,
here.
2 are older. We're going to refer them to you,
Oh,
so
thank you. Thank you so much.
thank you so much. Yes,
Thank
yes,
you. I
this is
appreciate it.
awesome. And we are interested in keeping this relationship for future projects and future
Yeah,
endeavors and future talks.
absolutely.
So, yes. So I'm going to give a couple announcements for our viewers, but then after that, if you could just kind of end it and then just give us some last pointers, some last advice, some words of encouragement, and then we will dismiss on today. All right. All right, so welcome everyone. We just had a segment with Brandi Feagin for our Winning Wednesday home ownership. We pray that you were truly blessed by it. Listen, our theme for this year for Birmingham Bible Church is 2022, the year of new beginnings. And so we're starting something new. We're creating something new. We want you to get that new home, giving you some new information this year. So pray that you were able to take it and receive it. Of course, our sermon series for the month of March is Women, the Greatest of All Times by Pastor Mason. Please make sure you are joining us at 11 o'clock a.m. Every Sunday on all of our social media outlets. Our book of the month is Famine in the Land. Make sure you get that book. Make sure you download it, you read it, however you get your information for your books, so that we can all grow on together. On next week, I'm excited once again because we have Valerie Wilson, who is a licensed professional counselor. She's going to talk about anxiety, how to deal with it, how to handle it. So many things are going on right now to make us anxious. And so she's going to help us with that. So make sure you share that as well. Excited about that information so that we can make sure that we are doing all we can for our mental health during this time. Our virtual college fair is going to be this Saturday on the 19th at 10 a.m. Excited about that as well. And we have a few colleges that are going to be coming on talking about their institutions, how you can get admitted, the things that they offer. So you don't have to register or sign up for that. We're just going to show it on all of our social media pages. So make sure you join us this Saturday at 10 a.m. Our book of the month is What on Earth Am I Here For our small groups. Our small groups are going to resume April the 2nd. So we're taking a break from our small group that we had this past Saturday, and we're going to resume on April the 2nd. What on earth am I here for? That is going to be the curriculum for our small group. If you are interested, please make sure you send us an email at smallgroups@bhambc.org. That's smallgroups@bhambc.org. And then we're going to gather in person. We're having a gathering in person and drive up a Resurrection Extravaganza service. It's going to be on Resurrection Sunday, which is April the 17th at 10 a.m. We're going to have free Easter eggs for the children, going to have a great time of fellowship. And so we're excited. Want to make sure everyone is socially distanced and safe. So make sure you send us an email at welcomeback@bhambc.org. If you are interested in the in-person service, again, welcomeback@bhambc.org to let us know if you are going to be in the place. Also, let us know how many family members you will be bringing with you so that we can make sure everyone is safe and socially distanced. And of course, we sent out contribution statements. If they were emailed, if you did not get yours, please send us an email address at ladypam@tcowi.org. And then if you desire to get more great teachings from Pastor Mason, please go to oneplace.com, do a search for Dr. James H. Mason III, and you can see all of the messages that are archived. He also is on 6 different podcasts. So we're excited about that. He's on iTunes, on Stitcher, on TuneIn, on iHeartRadio, on Spotify, and on Google Podcasts. So a great way to listen to the Word of God on the go. And then we have several groups that we are starting in the month of April. So if you're interested, please send us an email. And for those of you who are single, so everybody pay attention. Those who are single, you got to do this by March the 31st. Send an email to singles@bhambc.org. If you're single, send us an email at singles@bhambc.org. We're going to have some private monthly sessions. You can either watch it live or you can go back and watch it. But it's a great time to get information to help you and your singleness. For our married couples, if you're interested, please send us an email at marriedcouples@bhambc.org. That's marriedcouples@bhambc.org. Once again, do it by March the 31st. And then for those of you who are interested in our Timothy class, it's a class that helps you learn more about how to study the Bible, how to teach the Word of God. And so please do that as well. That email address is timothyclass@bhambc.org. That's timothyclass@bhambc.org. Of course, we have our awesome prayer room every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. That is 6 a.m. Central Standard Time. That number is 727-731-0433. Again, 727-731-0433. We also offer a study in the scriptures every Tuesday at 11 o'clock a.m. We are walking through the book of James. What a great time we are having. So of course, we're showing that on our social media pages. So feel free to join in every Tuesday at 11 o'clock Central Standard Time. Of course, we are also donating to, everybody knows what's going on with Ukraine, the Russian invasion, and how Ukraine is really in need of a lot of things, and so much is going on. And so the church is going to be donating through Red Cross. So this is something that could be done through Red Cross. If you desire to do it, you can. But the website is icrc.org. That's icrc.org. So it's a great time to really donate to them so that they can get all the supplies that they need. And once again, this is through the Red Cross. So make sure you do that as well. We want to be a blessing to others. Of course, we stream live on YouTube. We're on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, and through the My Sunday app. Of course, if you have an app store on your iPhone, make sure you go to that app store, and you're going to locate My Sunday, which is one word. You'll do a search for Birmingham Bible Church, and then you can see all of our events, all our flyers. You can actually watch broadcast through the app, so you can do that as well. Also, to receive text messages, text BBC WW to 94253. Text BBC WW to 94253 to receive text messages. Also, if you have a business, this is a great way to market your business. We have a business directory. And so, Miss Brandi, you can be a part of it. This is free of charge, but you go to our website, bhambc.org. You will actually click in the middle on business directory, and you can key your information in. Very easy process, is free. You also are not only a part of our church's website, but also a part of a 50,000 plus strong Christian database. So a lot of other people can locate you from wherever. And so it's a great way to do that. Of course, there are several ways that you can give to BBC. They're located on our website, bhambc.org, but you can give either Givelify, you can mail contributions in to P.O. Box 360-321 Birmingham, Alabama 35236. We have Cash App, which is $BHAMBC. And we also have, you can also give via text. That number is 205-289-1938, 205-289-1938. Key in the $, the amount you want to give, and it's very simple, very easy. And so speaking of what we do for other countries, we mentioned Ukraine, but we also give to our 12 Compassion International Children, who we have sponsored. And so thank you for all those who do that on a regular basis. Your gifts go toward their food, their medical supplies, their physical growth, their educational needs, so much more. So your gifts are very much needed and appreciated. Of course, you can also give to Our Land, Our Future. We are planning and continue to plan to do ministry debt free. And so thank you for those of you who continuously give towards this endeavor. We are believing God for land here in Birmingham, Alabama, to continue to do ministry on a community, a citywide level. So thank you so much for that. Those are all the announcements that I have. Make sure you guys have an awesome week. And so we're going to end with Miss Brandi.
Yeah, that's some good stuff.
Thank you. We appreciate it. God gives it to us, so we keep going. Thank you so much for doing this. Please give us your information again. Make sure you do that, and
Okay.
then also just give us some final words to all of our viewers.
All right. Well, first, I want to say thank you, Miss Pam and Birmingham Bible Church, for allowing me to be here. And I'm grateful for the opportunity. So thank you guys for that. And I just what I want to leave everyone with is just renewing your mind around what you may have thought of homeownership, what you may have heard of about homeownership, and just know that it's not easy. It's not going to be easy, right? But it's worth it. It's worth it, not just because of the tax write-offs and whatever the financial aspect of it, but you can leave this home to your family, to your kids, to it's just so many other benefits. If it's your first time, right, purchasing a house, and then because people tend to just, the first house they buy is not their forever home. They'll buy another one. Now, this can be your investment property, right? That can put you into a totally different space financially. So just renew your mind around what it looks like to purchase a home. Like I said, it's not easy, especially right now. But when you get to that closing table and you get those keys, oh my goodness, it is worth every bit of it, right? I look forward to, I pray that I was a blessing to somebody today. I look forward to hearing from some of you. I hope you can find me again on Facebook, Brandi with an I, Feagin, Brandi, Feagin, Feagin. It's just my name on Facebook. That's my personal page, as well as I use it for business as well. Instagram at Brandi_ the relationship realtor. And my number is 205-739-3574, 205-739-3574. And again, thank y'all so much. You can call me, text me, message me on Facebook, Instagram. If you just want to have a conversation, right? Just whatever it is. Listen, this is my passion. And I know that's cliche. Yes, I do want to make money, but I do know that this is where God has me to be, and that's helping people with home ownership. So call me, text me, whatever. Let's just get the conversation going, get the ideas rolling, and we'll get to the closing table at some point.
Sounds good. Thank you so much, Brandi.
Thank
All right,
you.
family, make sure y'all reach out to Brandi for all of your services, all of your needs. Thank you so much. We
Thank you.
appreciate you, and we will see you next time.
All right. Bye.